think it's been 2 years ago now, I had this giant list of families that were not free and not reduced, and they're just falling through the cracks. I mean, they were just barely over the limits, the income guidelines, which are set by the federal government, so there's nothing I can do about it. But and a lot of them had tragedies that had happened to them. They'd lost their jobs, or one of the parents had to go on disability, and they were, fighting that, trying to get their payments. Divorces. There were all kinds of things that people are dealing with. But if their income stays the same with some of those, like with the divorce, or with if they are still getting unemployment, for example, but it's still a drop, they're still having a lot of trouble even putting food on the table. I mean, let alone paying for their lunch accounts. And frankly, the school lunches, that just seems to be something that is not a priority. Their kids are going to get their lunch a lot of times either way, unless they get really, really low, and that's kind of when I get the red flags. And anyway, I contacted the church, I think I did, and just to see if they had any kind of resources for these families. And last year we got a grant, luckily, that helped a lot of these families just get out of to get their balances back to zero. And a lot of them were able to continue their payments and make sure that they kept up on it. But and this year we didn't get the grant, so I had one family in particular this year. I'm going to cry just talking about it. I got a note. I got a handwritten note, and it said, is there any help this year? We're still having trouble. And this was a family that we were able to help last year too. And they were like $150 in the hole, and that's pretty significant when you're looking at school lunches that cost, $1.75 each. So, and in this note, she's like, they're having trouble even making, getting food on the table for their kids, let alone, paying for their school lunches. And she said they just can't afford to even pack a lunch for their kids. So I went to Pastor John and I said, do you guys have any money in your funding to help these guys out just one time? And then something crazy happened, something amazing happened. I mean, it seems like such a small thing, but I was at home and my mom called me that Sunday afternoon and told me that the pastor had talked about it in a sermon, and when he asked everybody for help, I mean, they just gave, It's like they don't know this person, and they didn't have to do it, It was above and beyond what, I'm sure they're already giving to the church. But and when I called this family, this mom, in because I wanted to tell her in person what had happened, and she was so touched. I mean, and she didn't show a lot of emotion, but I know her, and I think that she was just shocked, that the community that had just opened up and just given just for her. And she told me specifically, make sure they know that I'm very, very thankful. So, yeah.